Albums coming out on Friday, the 23rd of August. Let's work through our list of 10. There are some EPs in here as well. First one on the list, Zeal and Ardor, probably the most respected avant-garde metal act in the world right now. So we know that this is a band that's led by the highly talented Swiss-American musician Manuel Gagner. This is the fourth album of their career, and it's called Greif. It's a self-release. I'm rather surprised by that. You'd expect these to have been snapped up by one of the big names in the music industry. Anyone who's new to Zeal and Ardor, how do we describe this music? Afro-American gospel, black metal, blues, and drop-tuned prog metal stylings. I know that sounds unusual. It sounds like it shouldn't work. It does. Their 2022 self-titled album was one of my favorite records when it came out, and I gave it a glowing review for our sister organization, Scream Blast Repeat. So it's always good to start number one on this list with one of the most anticipated albums. Number two, we're going to go to Hertfordshire in England, Southeast England specifically, and it's for a band that we've interviewed on this channel called Orn, and they're releasing the second record this year. It's an EP called No Serpents, No Saviors. The genre, drone metal or avant-garde metal, could also be an appropriate tag for this music. I know the band members personally, really nice guys, led by Tom Clements, who some of you might also know as the lead singer in the sludge grind band Praetorian, who recently played the Bloodstock, and he was also a rhythm guitar player in one of our other favorite bands, Everest Queen, who play quite an imaginative form of post-sludge metal. So Orm got yet another record coming out. It's an EP, and it promises to drone the walls down. Number three, we're going to stay with the avant-garde as one of the themes of this week's list. And this is a Greek avant-garde funeral doom band. Yes, I will repeat, avant-garde funeral doom. They're called Thurn, and this is their debut album, and it's called Condescending, released via Hyperthrill Records. These hands melt. How many times you hear me say this? I don't know what to expect. You can't really go many places in terms of dynamics and tempos when you're writing funeral doom. So if you're bringing in experimental elements, that's going to open you up certainly to more influences and hopefully more listeners. Number four on this list, and let me explain why it's on here. So this is a band called Uniform, and it's an album called American Standard. Now this is an industrial rock band from New York. It's the fifth album of their career, released via Sacred Bones, and the press release says that their main influence, or one of the big influences on this album, is the 1992 legendary LP, Angel Dust by the mighty Faith No More. That is my all-time favorite album in any genre, hands down. So anything that's influenced by it is going to get my attention. Let's move on to the next one. So we're now at number five. And this is a group from Sweden called Damp. And it's an album called No Angels Alive, released via Silver Lining Music. Genre-bending metal. How many times do we hear that phrase? Or modern metal, and it's really just people who like mixing dubstep with gent. So let's dig deeper into this, or at least what does the press release say to describe this music? Because you're going to have reservations until you have an idea what they're influenced by. Let me read it out. Apparently this is blending expansive yet tightly bound stylistic ingredients, incorporating hard rock, thrash, melodic power metal, and electronic edges. I'm just going to leave it there. Number six on this list, still in Sweden, the band are called Hatchend, and it's an album called Summer of '69, as in that Bryan Adams famous single. So they've obviously got a sense of humor, and I suspect they're probably talking about Charles Manson's Summer of '69. They describe the music as thrash, hardcore, experimental. It's released via Self-Made God Records, and the band are an assortment of established musicians in the death metal and grindcore scenes in the Swedish underground. And this is how they describe themselves: with no gimmicks, no makeup, no bullshit, and no corny stage show act. Hatchen's straightforward and in-your-face output is custom made for the shackled masses. Okay, that sounds fun. Number 7 on this list, we're going to Preston, Lancashire, Northwest England. Solitary, the most famous thrash metal band from the county, other than Zentrix, who obviously, actually, I need to backtrack on that. The most famous band from Lancashire in the thrash metal genre is Zentrix, who were famously signed to Roadrunner Records in the late 80s and early 90s as one of the first acts on the roster. The second most famous band is Solitary, and they were formerly on a metal label called Metalville, which is based in Germany. They've now switched over to another label called Twisted Into Form, and this is only their 5th album since they released their 1995 demo. So legends of the central Lancashire metal scene, and good to see they've got a new album out. I remember reviewing their 2020 album, and I enjoyed that. I heard elements of Machine Head and Exodus, and inevitably Slayer and Anthrax as well. So looking forward to that. Always going to be listening to music from bands from Lancashire, because that's the county where I was born and raised. Number 8 on this list, let's go to Norway. And guess what? It is black metal. Coldbrand, and the album's called Ingen Skjønsel. Released via Dark Essence Records, album number 4. They released their debut as far back as 2003. So what the fuck has been holding this band back? 4 albums in 21 years. Maybe it's a side project. I've never listened to their music, but 2 reasons why I will do that. 1, it's from Norway. 2, it's black metal. Actually, there's a 3rd reason. That's normally the only reason I will listen to black metal if it comes from Norway, because it's such a rarity these days. We know it should be of good quality if it comes from the homeland of that genre. Number 9, huge name in the death metal community. And at one point, it looked like they were going to be the leaders of the 2000s, certainly spearheading the genre. Critically, they were, but they didn't really match the sales, even though they signed to Relapse Records at an opportune time. We're talking about American metal legends Nile, who have the 10th album of their career ready to drop, called The Underworld Awaits Us All. So they've actually switched over to Napalm Records. How would we describe Nile and look at their legacy? Well, they are the kings of that technical, brutal death metal micro genre. Most of the bands have influenced are fucking unlistenable and useless, but these are a cut above the rest. We're talking about a top quality death metal unit here, aren't we? I mean, their 1998 debut, Amongst the Catacombs of Nefronkar, was an instant classic. I remember Terrorizer putting it in the top 100 albums of the 90s. I remember the album from 2000, Black Seeds of Vengeance, being the most talked about extreme metal album release of the year. I downloaded it from Napster. That tells you how long ago it was. And then I lost track with them really after that. So as I said, this is their 10th album. They've not quite achieved that legendary status that we expected them to. They have in terms of critical acclaim and amongst death metal purists, but they never really broke out into the wider mainstream. And perhaps the reason is because they're playing technical, brutal death metal with an ancient Egyptian theme to it. It's not really suited to the mainstream, is it? So number 10 on this record, another legendary band, certainly one that have established themselves over the last 10 years. We're going to go to Italy for the kings of symphonic death metal, Flesh God Apocalypse, and their new album is called Opera, and it's a follow-up to their 2019 release Veleno, which I remember buying as a digipack CD when it came out in 2019. I still play that album to this day. That is a mesmerizing piece of dramatic extreme metal, and it's good to see that Veronica Bordacini is still in the band as a soprano vocalist as well, to balance those harsh, masculine death metal vocals. I would say that other than Septic Flesh, or alongside Septic Flesh, these are the masters of this genre. Sometimes you'll hear me complain by saying that death metal is just not ambitious enough anymore. The irony that there's no life in death metal and that too many bands sound the same. well, Flesh God Apocalypse will certainly be challenging those lazy assumptions, and I'm sure that they will help me fall in love with this genre again. Why? Because it's so pompous, because it's so dramatic, and yet it's so heavy as well. So that concludes our list for the 10 albums released on Friday the 23rd of August 2024. Enjoy!